This week on One Day Leader, the contestants find out what the true nature of service delivery is in South African municipalities. Good evening, Sanbonani, and a warm welcome. Nina nonke lapha emakhaya namkelwa iyo ke intombi yakwa Shongwe laku One Day Leader. Now, as a newsreader, I constantly find myself telling a story of a community that's up in arms, protesting for service delivery from their local government structures. Now, we've all either seen or experienced communities burning tires, blocking roads, and marching on the streets for clean water, electricity, decent roads, and other services that they expect from their municipality. Abantu ngempela bakhathazekile, and they want answers. Clearly, something must be done. Our leaders will certainly have to do all they can today to answer the question, what solution do you propose to ensure greater transparency and accountability for municipal projects? Well, it's time for us to hear from our leaders. So, Leader 1, your vision statement, please.
Who taught us to look outside ourselves, our communities, and our unique values for our solutions? The apartheid regime for the longest time taught black people and women that they're inherently inferior and without the capacity to meaningfully contribute to discussions. In the new democratic dispensation, the predominantly black government that we elected is also continuing the dehumanization of South Africans through a lack of service delivery. However, we can innovate solutions and strengthen accountability. Ngalokho bakithi ngithi people-inspired solutions to our problems. Ngiyabonga.
Nathi siyabonga, Lindo. Good evening, Leader 2. It's your turn.
In South Africa, you fight corruption and service delivery. They tell you you are fighting a lost cause because you are fighting political parties. How about you go and tell that to our forefathers and the liberation fighters of our countries that it was useless what they were fighting for us because we are still going to become our own enemies? Why do we let apartheid regime and the colonialism to still continue to win against us? South Africa, if you feel that it is too much, join me in building a new nation, a nation with a new identity, a nation that is built under a rock of providing for our people. Mayihlome bantu basemzansi.
Tobani, Leader 3, good evening. Your vision statement, please.
I am on a mission to establish contact beyond the grave with the heroes of our past to assure them that their struggle was not in vain. But most importantly, to remind you and I that our voices did not get drowned by the echoes of our forefathers from the bullet of the colonialists. Africa is not poor. Africa is being robbed by our silence, apathy, and neutrality. For socio-economic transformation and emancipation, South Africa needs a new type of citizen, a catalyst for change, a surgeon for humanity, and an advocate for Africanism. Maibuye I Africa.
Siyabonga, Zizipo. Leader 4, good evening. Your vision statement, please.
I envision a South Africa where greed and self-preservation do not take priority over the needs of people on the ground, over poor black people like me and you. Leader 5,
it's your turn. Your vision statement, please.
2 years on this day, Winnie Mandela departed. Allow me to alter my vision statement in her honor. My vision is for you to tell your children and children's children that in a patriarchal society where the subordinate place of women was and still is seen as normal, when liberation movements were banned, their leaders jailed and exiled, Winnie Mandela kept the fight for liberation alive. My vision is for her name to be echoed from generation to generation. Tell them that she did not die, but she multiplied, not only into females, but into multitude of males like myself who believe that leadership transcends gender. In Zalabantu, umgogodlo wekhaya, Tari Yasechaba, Winnie Mandela rest in power.
And lastly, Belle, your vision statement, please.
My voice, my mind, my life. 3 things I will use to fight for those whose suffering is silenced. Youth hindered by a lackluster education system. Women under siege by the patriarchy, from the gender pay gap to gender-based violence. Queer bodies systemically excluded from all sectors of society. The 99% who've been repeatedly failed by the state. And black Africans who continue to live under the dictatorship that is the legacy of apartheid. South Africa, I give you my voice, my mind, my life.
Thank you very much to you leaders for those vision statements. Kakhulu mningi umsebenzi, and our leaders here are prepared to start doing the job that needs to be done. Now, remember, you at home can join the conversation and keep them accountable. You've heard what they've got to say. Gakhoge Connect with us on our social media platforms. We are on Twitter and Instagram at One Day Leader. And of course, find us on Facebook, One Day Leader Season 8. Now, last week, you had an opportunity to vote for your favorite leader. So let's take a look at who you chose to lead the pack.
This week's viewer vote sees Bal leading yet again with 3,255 votes, and Gugulethu is not too far behind with 1,760 votes. It's getting heated. This means that Bal gets 1 point. Congratulations.
Mzansi, don't forget to keep voting, as your vote could determine who is crowned the season's One Day Leader. Now let's have a quick look at how you can vote for these leaders. To vote for Lindo, SMS Leader 1. To vote for Tobani, SMS Leader 2. To vote for Zizipo, SMS Leader 3. To vote for Zanele, SMS Leader 4. To vote for Vusi, SMS Leader 5. And to vote for Bal, SMS Leader 6 to 34708. SMS's cost R1.50. Now, allow me to welcome our guest judge for tonight. Mhlungu is from the South African Local Government Association. Let's all give her a round of applause. With a welcome to One Day Leader, it's great to have you here with us tonight. What are some of the things that lead to a lack of service delivery in our communities?
Thank you very much, Pearl. I think there's a variety of reasons why there is a lack of service delivery. We can look at the fact that sometimes municipalities don't always have the financial resources to do everything that they need to do, and also looking at the fact that they have unfunded mandates that they need to actually see to. You also have to, one has to mention the fact that sometimes communities not paying for their services also leads to a lack of service delivery, because municipalities actually need money to ensure that services are delivered. We can't also not mention the fact that poor planning and lack of communication between a municipality and its community on what they expect can actually also lead to the fact that service delivery doesn't happen.
Thank you very much for that, Buhle. And not forgetting our resident judges, the familiar faces that we all love here on the show. Ndumiso Hadebe, who's an economist and entrepreneur, and Gugulethu Mhlungu, who is a future media mogul and award-winning writer and editor. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much, judges, for those insights. There clearly is a big problem here, Mzansi, that needs solutions. All that and more must be done. Namukele One Day Leader namhlanje sikhuluma ngodaba lwe-service delivery khona lana eMzansi. Now, contestants were tasked with a bit of a fact-finding mission. They wanted to find out what was going on in a particular community that has been plagued with such a problem. Let's take a look at how it went.
I-task yethu namhlanje ukuthi sikwazi ukuthola kabanzi ngokuthi why i-service delivery ileka within townships and municipalities.
We're on our way to meet the community leader, Ubud Robert, because he has to hide his identity.
My name is Robert. I was born in this place. I grew up in this place, Katoras. It's called Katoras. A lot of things have happened here. From the late 50s until now, a lot have happened, but nobody knows about those things.
It's very important to remember that we live in a society where if you articulate political views that are against certain individuals, you could very easily not find yourself in the most comfortable of positions.
The reason why I'm hiding my face right now is because I know they know me, I know them, I've done a lot of things with them, they've done a lot of things with me, but then if I were to reveal myself, there are a lot of people that are going to suffer because of what I'm saying to you right now.
Okungahlali kahle ngalokho ukuthi
you'd expect ukuthi in a democratic society, people should be open to voice out any kind of criticism they have without having to incur a cost that one places their life in harm's way.
A lot of people know this place is a very violent place, but the only thing that they remember about this place is the violence, the 90s violence. We are trying to drift from that state to something better.
Immediately raised so many questions about how a society operates and instilled fear.
But a lot of things are not happening here because I would say the leadership. Yeah, the leadership. You know, these people. I don't know what they take us for. You know? We tried to fight with these guys on so many levels. We're just not understanding what they try to say. I mean, we're not asking for heaven and hell. Just asking for service delivery. Yeah. But then when they give us services, they don't consult with us first and ask, guys, what is it that we need? You know, they go around establishing things without consulting us. There's this establishment of these toilets here. And when the community starts asking, guys, if you're building 2 rooms, why do you build toilets first? What's happening here? Who's going to occupy these places? They didn't want to come clear with those things and everything. I mean, now they're standing there, nobody's using them because the community is saying nobody's going to occupy those things if it's not us.
Yo, the toilet story, into nje ongayaziyo le nje into ongayaziyo yakhe yabapha 200 i-toilet ye-120,000 like ayenzi sense.
Some of the councillors are resigning from the ruling part. As councillors, they are resigning because now they cannot voice out their opinions as to what needs to happen in their wards. If someone says, okay guys, I can source funding from somewhere, I want to develop something in my community because my community needs 1, 2, 3. If the council on top, in the ruling, it does not approve of that, then you are doomed. And now the community is looking at you and saying, you are our leader, we want that, you promised that thing. But guys, I can't because now, the top guys, they don't want me to establish that thing.
Why are the requisite people not being held accountable?
So it has become a problem now. We find people within the same organization fighting for positions, fighting for power, fighting for a lot of things. And now we are the ones who are suffering on the ground. We've got a clinic that was established, I think, I think it's been 3-4 years now. It's dysfunctional. Nobody's using it.
Yamoshwa imali South Africa. So most times masibuza ukuthi why can't we get a school built or why can't we get houses built? Impendulo ihlezi kuba ukuthi ayikho imali. But what I've seen is imali khona ayisetshenziswa kahle.
There's a licensing department that was established I think about 2 years back. Construction is stopped. We don't know what happened. When you ask questions, they'll tell you, the leadership is fighting.
Bazamile ukutoyitoya, bazamile to go do peaceful marches at the mayor's office to talk to them, but so they're not seen as important people.
So what language do these people understand? How loudly must we raise our voices, or how boldly must we speak? How many people must die? How many people must live in poverty? How many children must resort to drugs and alcohol because of the circumstances that they find themselves in?
Youth here, it goes astray because akuna zinto abakwazi ukukhalela khona. Abantu abafuna ukuthi ku-minimize le ndaba yama-tavern. Understand? Kube nema-youth center. Abantu bafuna ukuthi kube nendawo infrastructure lokuthi i-youth izokwazi ukuya khona, ikwazi ukuthi ihlale nje kuyi-youth bakudiscuss izinto ezithile. Asikwazi ukubona le nto leyo. The other thing izocela ukuthi niyeze bafethu ngicela masifika lapho kulezi ndawo leziyana because mina ngizohlala ekarini. Angifuni mangibone people know. So ngifuna ukuthi mangifika kule ndawo leziyana ningenelele. Niringe nje nabantu bomphakathi nibuze bafethu ukuthi kwenzakalani la, why kumile, why into yanini le nto le. So that you get answers from the community itself. Angifuni ukuba yini kuphela ngitshela le nto, ngifuna nizwela from the community itself.
The first place he took us was the toilet area, where supposedly they were going to build 2-room houses in between.
Lama toilets avele abekwa nje lapho, they have geysers, but no one is occupying them.
How do you build into a trap that could put our people in danger in that basis?
The one community member we were able to engage, the community just wants to now occupy these toilets. So what they will do is they will build shacks next to a toilet, and then that will be the area that they occupy. Just ukubavala
Yeah,
amehlo
ngoba amehlo ukuthi
basuke la.
bangahlali like njengoba bathi bafake imikhukhu.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then bafaka lama-toilet. Then ama-toilet namanje like yahleli nje.
Ayagqekezwa I'm sure.
Ayagqekezwa. Nabantu bafika lana abanye bafele khona.
In fact, a significant amount of the problem is how the government isn't doing much to help them.
People must just accept things for what they are. To say, no, there's corruption and we cannot question it.
Bafela ama-rumors ukuthi nabantu abazohlala ngapha kusabantu ba-around ngapha. Yabona? That's when ke abantu bacabana. Yabo? Ukuthi angeke like yabo like mina ngihlala la. Yabo? Like masizofika umuntu athi sibuyela le bomaqumbu tinarha nanani and then mina dala ngihleli lana anginayo indawo.
Want to occupy space.
Yabona? So nami like ngeke ngifike kude yabona? Zoli. That's why ke le ndawo le ilimile namanje.
Angazi ukuthi sophuma kanjani kule ndaba because it seems to be a national problem much as it's an issue we saw in the community of Katlehong. Ngoda in South Africa throughout, there's just a problem with leaders who become self-serving and put their needs before those of their communities.
If you're leading Abantu, don't ever think you know what people want. It's not up to you to tell other people what they need. Go to people, let the people tell you so that you are able to bring proper services, because it seems as South Africa we do not lack service delivery, but we just have mismatched services being given unto people.
Mzansi, those were some shocking revelations. Kodwa kuningi okwenzekayo, and without putting the blame at one person's door, I think it's important to probe this issue and just try to go deeper into where it's failing, who is failing, and what can be done to sort of bridge that gap.
There are grievances at a local government level. You can only go perhaps as an individual for an inquiry regarding a particular project, why it's not completed. The likelihood of you getting a response in reality is not so much if you were to come in the form of a group or some kind of forum in that instance. But ultimately it raises another important question around what brings us all here today. It's a fundamental leadership question.
All right, coming up, we continue with our Project SA mission, and we'll see if we can find a way forward so that the government and our South African communities can work together. Stay with us. To One Day Leader Season 8 here on SABC 1. Igama nginguPearl Shongwe. Njengoba sakhuluma ngalo ke lo daba lwe-service delivery, I'd like to emphasize that it is indeed a national crisis. For example, in the Metsimaholo region in the Free State, we saw 21.7 million rand that was supposedly spent on a sports complex. Kodwa during a site visit by the Office of the Auditor General, all that could be found was a fence and no structure at all. 21 million rand for a fence, people. We need to let that sink in. It is completely unacceptable. But before we kick off our first round of debates, let's quickly take a look at those rules of engagement. You have 60 seconds to propose, 90 seconds to debate, and 30 seconds to conclude. With all of those rules in mind, it's time for our leaders to tackle their first debate. And the first one is going to be between Leader 5 and Leader 1. Now, usually, Leader 1, I would have given you the opportunity to kickstart your debate. Not this time around. I'm going to start with you, Leader 5. Your time starts now.
Local government is viewed as the vehicle for service delivery, given its proximity to the people. However, one of the major challenges faced by municipalities in South Africa is the quality of service delivery and the lack of transparency and accountability. The Constitution provides for 3 categories of municipality comprising of metros, districts and local municipalities, which collectively owe 23.6 billion rands to Eskom and other water boards alone. According to the Auditor General, irregular expenditure increased by 50% to more than 16 billion rands, and only 49 of 263 municipalities achieved clean audits. It is therefore apparent that transparency and and accountability must be the order of the day if we are to achieve effective and efficient service delivery. However, the solutions that we provide must be aligned with the current electoral system used at local government, because different electoral systems determine the different forms of accountability and transparency. Having taken that into consideration, this is what makes the following solutions very practical. One, the Independent Electoral Commission must foster the vetting of nominated candidates ahead of next local government election. Two, we promote public participation by making sure that ward committees have access to council meeting. And three, we promote electoral education so that the electorate can understand the key factors that determine the electoral.
All right, time is up. Leaders, you have 90 seconds to engage.
Okay. There must be a criteria adopted by the Independent Electoral Commission in consultation with South Africans through public hearings that will be used by all political parties for the individuals they propose to assume positions of as ward councillors, members of municipal council and mayoral positions. This will foster transparency and accountability, because a community like Katoras in Katlehong can be able to say, for our community, this is the type of leader that we want. These are the criteria that we want. This would, okay?
People who have also been regarded very highly by the people who protested in Katoras, but also people who later turned on them when they got into positions. You're not changing that system of placing a person in power for them to later turn on their community.
Right now, the challenge right now in South Africa is that political parties are more inclined to their politicians are more inclined to their political parties, not the people. So this criteria would allow the electorate the ability to assess and review whether the individuals proposed by political parties have the necessary skills, background and capabilities in respect to the criteria that have been adopted, so that they can be ensure legislative mandate in effective and efficient service delivery.
The problem here is not about who political parties choose, because ward committee members are chosen regardless of the political party that they serve. The problem here is that you place people who don't have the interest of the community at heart in the very same system that allows them to neglect their jobs.
Different electoral systems determine different forms of accountability. The electorate of South Africa do not understand the kind of electoral system that is currently used at local government. Without understanding that, they cannot be equipped with the necessary knowledge and the skills to hold.
Thank you very much. Time is up. Leader 5, you have 30 seconds to wrap it up.
All municipal activities should be subject to public scrutiny, and council meetings should be open to ward committees through the South African Local Government Association Department of Strategy, Policy and Research by utilizing a portal that we call Municipal IQ to monitor and assess all South Africa's 278 municipalities in order to have access to the municipal productivity and service delivery compliance. Without transparency and accountability, service delivery can never be the order of the day. And electoral education is important in making sure that the citizens understand how to hold their leaders accountable.
Thank you very much, Leader 5. Time is up. The tables are turned. Leader 1, it's your turn.
What I'm going to prove in today's debate is that we can use, one, performance-based remuneration, and secondly, knowledge on accountability avenues to ensure greater transparency and accountability in municipalities. So on performance-based remuneration, the principle of the system is that it works as a reward system that reinforces the effort as well as etiquette we want to see and normalize. How will this then work in the instance of municipal government? We say this can simply start with, for example, like a base, we call it a minimum wage, with a base minimum wage, and then proceed to how much councillors or municipality officials are actually paid. Secondly, we can have preventative measures that ensure that we don't almost exclusively create an enabling environment for people who are already historically disadvantaged. So basically, we can have quotas to ensure that we don't employ more men or enable them better access to resources in order for them to be able to get more earnings. Why is this a good way to deal with the problem of accountability and transparency? Because officials have to provide
evidence. Leaders, you have 90 seconds.
The reason why this is good is that officials have to provide evidence for the fact that they've actually completed a certain obligation. This means that we create an incentive for them to actually perform their task, because that's how they're able to earn more. Before I proceed, yes.
Lindo, different electoral systems determine political behavior.
Yes, and I've already told you why yours is vague and only perpetuates the problems in status quo.
I'm asking a question.
Yes.
What I'm trying to ask is, the solutions that you provide can only be practical if they are aligned by the current electoral system used at local. So can you please show us an alignment between your solution and the electoral system?
I'm not proposing to change the electoral system. I'm only proposing to differ how we pay the people who are actually in place.
You are not answering my question. Is not electoral system. I'm saying to you, in order for solutions to be implementable, they must be aligned to the electoral system. So
they are, because I'm not changing the electoral system.
No, you must give us a link.
Here's why the solution is important, right? Because this form of accountability is not difficult to ascertain. ascertain. If a municipal, official doesn't build a house, it is evident in society that they didn't build it. As opposed to national government, where we actually have to measure things like how long did they take to implement a policy that generally takes long to implement.
Currently in government, we've got corruption. Let me interject. Currently in government.
I answered that
question.
No,
I've got another question.
Okay.
In government, we've got corruption. There's what we call...
Okay, let me deal with corruption now.
I'm showing you why this is flawed.
There's corruption,
You're not engaging me, and I answered your questions.
If a person claims, I actually built that house.
Thank you very much. Time is up, leader. Why do you have 30 seconds to wrap up your debate?
We are still able to ascertain whether or not they actually did what they did, because whether or not they fulfilled their role is evident to whether or not our circumstances improved. Why this is important is that accountability and transparency don't improve when the extent of the actions of local governments don't have a direct impact on themselves, more specifically their pay. It is when we conditionalize their ability to earn more that they actually have an incentive to change the ways that they do, or rather to actually act on their mandate. Lastly, as far as knowledge,
thank you very much, Leader One. That's where we'll leave it with our first debate. We'll give our judges a moment for them to write down their scores, but while they do, let's turn to Googs, who's going to give us her impressions on that first debate.
I thought a good way to start the evening, and interesting the points that each leader focused on. I think Ndumiso focusing on the issue of incentive, of reward, was quite an interesting one. I would have liked a little bit more about what is it about the current prevailing legislation reward system doesn't work. We often hear, for instance, the Auditor General, who came up in Vusi's presentation, the Auditor General saying there seems to be a lack of political will to use the legal tools that are available, the PFMA, the MFMA, and others that would allow municipalities to recoup monies lost through wasteful or, otherwise expenditure.
All right, let me come to our guest judge for our verdict.
Okay, the overall winner is Vusi, who is debater number 5.
All right, and congratulations to you, Leader 5. Nikumbule lapha emakhaya ukuthi your votes will be revealed at the top of next week's episode. Masibuye Dolo, we get to our next round of debates.
As the NYDA, we're very excited with the change that comes with the new government. The presidency in particular is very much focused on young people, and the NYDA plays a central role in implementing the vision of government as it relates to its youth. We're going to introduce new and innovative funds, and we're going to partner with other entities like the Department of Small Business to bring comprehensive packages of support to young people who want to be and are passionate entrepreneurs. We'll be upgrading many of our service centers, and we'll be working with entities like the Department of Employment and Labor and our social partners, Harambee and the Youth Employment Service.
Spinas Namugele Kona Lagu, One Day Leader, and thank you so much for staying with us, Kona Lagu SABC 1. Now, we would really like to thank the NYDA, who are our partners and supporters in that important message that we just saw. Now, what I find really sad about thinking as a service delivery is that they really do affect the most vulnerable of South African citizens. Our leaders are here to provide us with some of those solutions, and so that will take us to our next debate, which will be between Leader 3 and Leader 2 will be going at it. Leader 3, I'll give you an opportunity to go first. Your time starts now.
Spheres need to be identified for social accountability. One includes budget, public budget, which includes an analysis of budget allocation and advocacy for greater public influence on national budget decisions, and public service delivery, which includes citizen participation in monitoring and evaluation of service delivery to access accessibility and the quality of public goods and services. We need to adopt one service charter that will ensure good governance, which includes accountability, transparency, and efficiency in deploying scarce resources to key sectors of the national economy. We're also dealing with an issue of human capital, where we have the incorrect people in positions that where they deal with problems that affect our people directly and serve as hindrances to the change that they need. Therefore, we need to advocate against cadre deployment and for municipality sufficiency. And we also need to develop an auditing and monitoring agency that is independent from the government, as this will help tackle the lack of communication and integration between the government, the private sector, and the community, and will speak largely to the corruption that we're currently dealing
Time's
with.
up. Thank you very much. Leaders, you can engage.
Just on that.
Can I just elaborate on the one service charter that we need to adopt? So in 2000, the Rwandan government established Vision 2020, which was a long-term development strategy with its main objective to transform Rwanda into a middle-class economy by 2020. Now, our South African government has changed economic growth policies more than 3 times. And because of that, South Africa has lost over 700 billion rand, and only 10% of our municipality are producing clean audits. So if we have a single service charter, we will be able to have less bureaucracy and less regulations with fewer stakeholders, which will improve the channels of communication between local government and the community, that will stimulate transparency, which will lead to accountability.
Please.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
In your solutions, you bring about a very important aspect, which is that we must do away with cadre deployment. Tell us, what form of solution are you going to bring about if you are not going to use cadre deployment? Do not put skills and education-based system, because it has failed in some Asian states where they did try and practice it. So what form of solution are you going to bring about into place if you want people who have the necessary skills to lead us as a nation?
Well, this is simple. If political parties are able to knock door to door when they want your vote, but they can't do the same to hear your grievances out as people, then vote them out or don't vote at all. Anything else?
So my question is, how do you get the best precise leaders according to your solution that are going to be in the perfect place? How do we get about to say you are the perfect president?
Well, as Vusi mentioned, then we need an electoral system with a criteria that is going to align with the problems of our society.
How is yours going to be working in society?
Time is up. Thank you very much, Leader 3. We have 30 seconds to wrap up your debate.
In Malawi, an example of public service delivery is one where there are service delivery satisfaction surveys and community scorecards which allow users to provide services to evaluate the quality of public services. So the solutions are not in Europe, China, which are developing and developed countries. We need to look within Africa and adopt systems that other African countries are using. I made an example about Rwanda, who experienced a genocide. We just came from apartheid, which is and majority of the problems that we experience result from that. So if we adopt systems that countries that are like ours.
Thank you very much. The tables are turned. Leader 2, it is your turn.
There's a very great concern in society, which is service delivery, which stems from corruption. And corruption stems from the problem of accountability and transparency. So now let me propose a solution on how we deal with accountability and transparency, eventually evaluate the other 2 problems. Now, there's this one point which is combined into 3 different points. Anti-corruption reform is needed and is necessary in South Africa. Security sector reform is necessary in South Africa. Legislative strengthening is necessary in South Africa. And for an establishment of an accountability and transparency department, which is non-partisan, unlike the judiciary system that we have in South Africa. If you understand that in states like America, in America they have about FBI, they have Homeland Security, and they have Senate. In those departments, they are not governmental nor political structures. They are just independent structures which are under the judiciary system, which are there to withhold any political party or any political member who is said to have failed to produce whatever was expected of them. In South Africa, it seems that we lack the positioning and the presence of such
Time is up.
so that
You leaders can engage.
Just a second. It seems in South Africa we lack such people because we know that there is corruption. Each and every day in South Africa in the last 10 years, there has been a say of corruption. And whenever you report this, we just know there's going to be a commission of inquiry. There's not necessarily anything in place or reform in place that places these people into punishment and for them to be able to account unto the people.
You're speaking of South Africa and America, and that's a developed country comparing to a developing country. And we have different election systems. So how are we going to apply principles of developed countries in a developing countries?
Unfortunately, as South Africa, we're not stagnant. We're not a nation that is stagnant, that wishes to stay stagnant. We wish to become a nation that is as developed as America. So part of stuff that they are doing that are going to advance for us to be better.
But we cannot apply principles that work for them when we're not in the same economic states even.
Thank you very much. Now this is what happens. As I'm telling here, we wish to get to a certain point. If we wish to get to that point, we need to go and benchmark from the people that have arrived to that point so that we can become better as a nation. And this thing of you speaking about electoral system, it was your flaw because you're the one that spoke about the election system. I have nothing to do with the election system. I like it as is today. Now this is what happens, the other problem in society. with service delivery, accountability and transparency. We know that such places like we went to Katlehong, where we realized that there were toilets which costed 120,000 each toilet. That is a big problem.
Tobani,
people in Katlehong, they do not want to speak to us.
Thank you very much. Time is up, Leader 2. You can wrap it up in the last 30 seconds.
People in Katlehong, they do not want to speak to us because they knew that there was going to be some sort of agitation if they speak unto us. So government in South Africa needs to protect basic human rights. If a person goes and becomes a whistleblower, they should be protected so that they are not victimized by government and the people that are in power. And we should also advance for social change. We should stop calling abantu whistleblowers impi, because the word impi is a word that agitates people to want to react and kill you in society. So that means that we need to advance for social change in society, to be a proactive society. And finally, but not least,
thank you very, very much. I must say, yeah, laughter, entertainment, passion behind that debate. And Ndumiso, I really want to get your thoughts in.
Hey, finally. Finally, Tobani. I noted that you were getting frustrated with yourself because of not winning debates. In this particular debate, you not only backed up the passion that you have, which is something that you clearly have, and it resonates with people, but with some good amount of empirical evidence and benchmarking as well, which I think is what set this debate for you apart than your previous ones. If you were to continue to combine that with empirics around your argument, I think it would make you almost unstoppable. So, well done.
I'll come to Ndumiso for the verdict.
The verdict was quite clear, Tobani.
All right, thank you very much. And congratulations to you, Leader 2. Definitely something to smile at. One can tell that our leaders are so accustomed to having watched previous seasons, even imitating previous contestants with Forward We Go. Well, Forward We Go into our next debate, Leader 4 and Leader 6. It's quite evident. Belle, you'll have your opportunity to go first.
The only time our government cares about service delivery is in the run-up to elections. They actively lie to poor and vulnerable people in our society, and once elected, they disappear into a puff of smoke. Here are 3 tangible mechanisms we can use to hold our governments accountable. Firstly, at a community level, we have to be vigilant. We have to engage with our ward councillors. Under Chapter 10 of the Constitution, we have a right of direct access to these elected officials. Secondly, if these ward councillors turn out to be corrupt, NGOs and trade unions in some instances have legal standing to hold them accountable in the highest courts of this land. We have to use these mechanisms. Furthermore, in election years, we cannot continue to be fooled by their empty promises. We have to interrogate our party loyalty, especially when it is grounded in a history of trauma. We cannot continue to vote for the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape when they fail to deliver services in Khayelitsha and Manenberg, and we cannot continue to vote for the ANC in Katlehong, where we're sitting with a field full of toilets that cost 120,000 rand a pop. Furthermore, then, at a state level...
Thank you very much, leaders, to engage.
I just have a question about when you say that it's trade unions that can help community members to take this government to court. How do you do that to a community like Katlehong, which does not have the resources or the willpower?
So in the instance of the licensing department, where workers weren't being paid on time by the state, that's an instance where a trade union could step in and say to these workers, right, we can help you, we can take you to, we can lead your case in court.
Can I just add, but we saw that the person who will go to that trade union and say, hey, there is a licensing department that is not complete in my community, will be targeted. How do you protect these people?
We challenge the culture of whistleblowing. We add protection. It's an entire societal mindset shift, and it starts at a community level. Protection in a variety of ways. We start actively changing the ways in which people think about service delivery and government mandate, and we start, I mean, even if it's a case of having to call in members of the SAPS to protect people or relocating them.
Okay, that's great. So let's talk about the party loyalty that you talk about, how we can't continue voting for certain parties. How do you ensure that to a 64-year-old woman who thinks that the ANC took her out of apartheid, how do you ensure that she actively leaves that type of party?
So much like we saw in our fact-finding mission, these people are aware of the fact that their leaders are failing them.
But being aware and actually doing something differently is
Let me continue. Sure. So it's a case of sitting down with individuals like this and saying, your rights are not being protected.
Who sits down?
It can be members from opposition parties, it could be NGOs, it could be the exact actor isn't
What is the incentive for opposition parties to then engage with these type of individuals in communities that are aggressive?
So that they can secure votes and become more prominent in parliamentary
Even the president couldn't engage with this community. How does he
Thank you very much. Leader 6, you can wrap it up.
Finally, then, at a state level, we have individuals like the Public Protector, Auditor General. Private sector can also play a role. People of South Africa, we cannot allow the state to continue to fail us in this matter. Let us make our voices heard in communities, polling stations, and in the highest courts of the land. The government is blatantly ignoring what our communities truly need, and they're spending trillions of rands ineffectively. We will hold the state accountable for corruption. We will hold the state accountable for empty promises, and we will hold the state accountable for failing to protect our basic human rights time and time again.
Thank you very much. The tables are turned. Leader 4, it's your turn.
South Africa, I don't think it is the debate or it is contentious that we want to hold the government accountable for failing us. They fail us. I come from such a township where services are not delivered on time. The discussion today is about how best do we do this. And I don't think we achieve it by just saying that we need to deal with party loyalty. As I said, there is an entrenched idea that older people rely on certain parties because they think this is the Liberation Party. You don't deal with this with a mere conversation. It'll take more. And this is the type of solution that I give you therefore. The first thing that we need to do, as we saw with the community of Kataras, they don't want leaders that are not from their communities. They want to be able to identify with these leaders. We need to make sure that the local government legislation says that the community leader who needs to be there is someone who comes from there and who will consistently live there, because they don't want people who will leave clinics unattended to and licensing centers that are not completely built and then go to live at Midrand or wherever else where they are not affected by those conditions. We want the councillor to use that two-room clinic as well so that they are affected by the negative outcomes that come from that. Secondly, we need to create a culture of protecting whistleblowers, and I don't think that the...
Time is up. Thank you very much. Your leaders can engage.
Sure. I don't think we move on. Yeah, can I just finish?
Sure, quickly.
Yeah. The idea that Bell gives us about how we can protect whistleblowers through using courts, I think this is something that puts these whistleblowers again like in position where he will constantly be attracting violence towards him and threatening his family. So we need to do things like the Public Protector, things like other Chapter 9 institutions, taking it to create programs like witness protection services that will actively protect these individuals from violence and harm.
We can 100% use the Public Protector and the Auditor General and all the other mechanisms that exist under our Constitution. I acknowledge that in my speech. I don't think that you're being particularly, I think you kind of mischaracterized the case that I put forward, because I do concede that there are other mechanisms and we can still use legitimate leaders from that community. Interjection, not a question.
Oh, okay, cool. So what I tell you as my last point then is that it is important to encourage community leaders to boycott voting if it means that the type of party that they are loyal to is not serving them. If they communicate directly with that party by not voting, it means that the party will be aware of the type of agitation and frustration that people experience.
Will that not further add to voter apathy that we already experience as a result of corruption?
That's fine. If it means that we're going to have government elections at their government officials at their toes wanting to follow the public and wanting to do what pleases the public,
they're just going to make more empty promises.
No, they won't. Because if they make an empty promise, it means next year in the local government elections, I will simply not vote, and it means that you will not be put into office because you don't have my support.
Thank you very much, Leader 4. You can wrap up your debate.
So South Africa, we are quite angry and upset about the situation of service delivery in South Africa, but we need to be very strategic about how we go on implementing accountability and transparency mechanisms that help us solve this. The more active engagement of Chapter 9 institutions, such as the Office of the Public Protector and the Auditor General, and creating platforms that protect whistleblowers, allowing community members to identify with their leaders and hold them accountable because they are in the same township, because they use the same services as them, is something that I think will be more effective than just saying we'll call in NGOs or trade unions.
Thank you very much, Leader 4 and Leader 6. We just come to our guest judge, Ubuhle, just to give us feedback in terms of the debates that you heard here tonight from our contestants.
So I'm quite chuffed that you guys actually brought out the importance of accountability. It's important for South Africans to know that we need to hold our leaders to account, and it kept coming out, and the solutions that were actually brought to the fore were quite practical, because you're looking at the electoral system in one instance, and in another instance somebody was debating the fact that the people who work within a municipality need to be incentivized and they need to be capable of doing what they need to do. Local government is very important. It's closest to the people, and I'm impressed, and we need to have more of these kind of debates. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I'll come to you, Ndumiso, for our verdict.
The verdict is Bell.
All right. Congratulations to you, Leader 6, on taking that final debate. After the break, we find out how our studio audience voted. See you after the break. back. This is One Day Leader. Babugele, if there's one thing I'm taking away from tonight's episode is that we really need to become more active as citizens to do all we can in order to hold our leaders accountable. During the break, rather, our studio audience got an opportunity to vote for their favorite leader for tonight's episode. We'll get to who the favorite is, but before we do, let's quickly just get our final impressions from our judges, and I'll start with our guest judge, Buhle Ngwenya.
South Africans need to be more active and participate firstly by going to elect or to the election, to the poll. There's a proverb that says that what you do for me without me, you do against me. So essentially, if a municipality is not consulting with its community, whatever it is that they're doing is against the community. So the community needs to actually show up in those necessary platforms and actually hold people accountable by being present. And just knowing that you are just as much to blame if things go wrong, if you haven't actually held somebody accountable.
All right, thank you very much for that, Googs. I mean, how do we encourage more participation, more public participation?
I think part of the work involves people feeling a sense that there is a real amount of public power. I think it was 2 years ago the Chief Justice was speaking about people who become public representatives need to be acutely aware that what they wield, the power that they have, is not power that is given to them because they're particularly amazing or smart, but it is actually public power. And there's a huge amount of responsibility attached to public power.
And Ndumiso, just your parting words for tonight.
Look, I think at this stage of the game, it's going to get more and more intense. Others are winning more than others are losing more than others are feeling a bit despondent. But I think as a former contestant and being where you guys are right now, the true test of your leadership will start now. The true test of the relationships that you have here will start now. And how you conduct yourself, win or lose, and its reflection on your leadership qualities will start now. All of the best going forward. Keep bringing the best A game that you can. But let's start zooming in on your own character development so that after the show, you yourself can say, no, man, I'm not the same person that I was before I entered the show.
All right, thank you very much, judges, for those contributions. Now, before the ad break, we did have a studio audience vote, and I do have the result with me. And tonight, we would like to say a big congratulations to Leader 2. You took the studio audience vote. With that, let's take a look now at our episode scoreboard.
At the end of this episode, Bal is leading for the first time with 8 points and Ndumiso is lagging behind with 1 point. Zijikile izinto.
Now remember, at home, we'll be showing your voting results at the top of next week's episode. Voting lines will close on Monday afternoon. Gitanda Ugbonga, our candidates, our judges, our studio audience, and of course you at home for joining us once again for this episode of One Day Leader. Next week we'll be discussing yet another thought-provoking topic. Now, with hashtag Project South Africa in mind, I want to leave you with the following words from the late Mother Teresa. I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. With that in mind, South Africa, let us remember that the power belongs to us, and we have it in us to take back that power when we are not being led. Amandla.